You spent your life believing the king's body was sacred. The divine right of kings wasn't just a political theory, it was a physical reality. To touch the monarch uninvited was treason. To strike him was a crime against God himself. But the moment the axe sheared through the vertebrae, that divine protection didn't just fade, it evaporated. The head wasn't a crown jewel anymore. It was biological debris. It became a warning signal, a carnival attraction, or a logistical problem for the sanitation department. You think the execution was the end? For these royals, the humiliation had only just begun. Take Dafydd ap Gruffudd. In 1283, he was the last native Prince of Wales, a man demanding sovereign respect. Edward I didn't just want him dead, he wanted him dismantled. Dafydd holds the grim distinction of being the first nobleman in England to be hanged, drawn, and quartered. You know the phrase, but consider the mechanics. He was dragged by a horse to the scaffold, hanged until he was almost dead, and then disemboweled while he was likely still breathing. But the real disrespect started when the heart finally stopped beating. His head was packed up in Shrewsbury and hauled to London. It was the height of summer. No ice or embalming fluid, just a decomposing trophy rattling in a cart for days. The Prince of Wales reduced to a fly-blown object stinking up the baggage train. When it finally arrived at the Tower of London, they didn't hide it away in a crypt. They drove an iron spike through the skull and mounted it high on the battlements. And he wasn't alone. Edward placed him right next to the rotting head of his brother, Llewellyn. It was a grotesque family reunion, in iron and bone. This wasn't just a death sentence. It was a message to the Welsh. Your royal bloodline is now just bird food on an English wall. The birds picked them clean, and the sun bleached what was left, turning the symbol of Welsh independence into a permanent fixture of English architecture. But at least Dafydd served a political purpose. The Duke of Monmouth just served vanity. It's 1685, and Monmouth is the illegitimate son of Charles II, leading a rebellion to seize the throne. He failed, and after having a bounty of £5,000 put on his head, he was captured. Unfortunately for the Duke, this wouldn't be the last thing his head had to face. The execution itself was a butchery. Jack Ketch, the executioner, was a disaster. He swung the axe, missed the sweet spot, swung again, missed the vertebrae. He hacked at Monmouth's neck 5 times. He actually threw down the axe halfway through, disgusted with himself, and had to be threatened by the sheriff to finish the job. Eventually, he used a knife to sever the last tendons and skin from the twitching body. The head was a mangled, jagged mess. But here, the history turns into a gruesome legend. Rumor has it, officials panicked, realizing they had no official portrait of the rebel duke. So, they supposedly dug him up. The story asserts a surgeon stitched the head back onto the body, dressed the corpse in silks, and propped him up for a sitting. Imagine that scene. An artist staring at a graying, stitched-up corpse, trying to capture nobility from decay. If you look at the Monmouth portrait today, the eyes do look heavy and unfocused. While historians debate the truth, it remains a haunting image. A portrait of a man who might be technically present, but visibly gone. They say the same fate awaits those who don't like the video. The English used heads for warnings or vanity. The French, they treated them like industrial waste. Fast forward to 1793. The revolution has stripped away the mystique of the monarchy. Louis XVI is no longer God's anointed anymore. When the guillotine blade dropped, the executioner, Sanson, held the head up for the crowd. But that was the only moment of ceremony. Immediately after, the head wasn't placed on a velvet cushion. It was shoved between his legs in a rough wicker basket. The body was carted to the Magdalen Cemetery and dumped into a deep pit. They didn't want a martyr. They wanted a disappearance. So they covered the king in quicklime, a caustic chemical that boils flesh off bone. They tried to burn him out of history with chemistry. It was more like waste management than a royal burial.
Months later, his wife, Marie Antoinette, followed.
Same blade, same basket. Her head was tossed between her legs in a common coffin costing 7 francs. But before the quicklime could do its work, history took a stranger turn. Legend tells us that Madame Tussaud, yes, that Tussaud, was forced to work for the revolution. She wasn't making statues of heroes. She was ordered to make death masks of the enemies of the people. Imagine the tactile horror. You are sitting with the fresh, severed head of the queen who once ruled you. You have to touch her skin, grease her face, and apply the plaster. The head is heavy, the neck is ragged, and the eyes are staring at nothing. The warmth is fading. Tussaud had to hold the face of the monarchy in her lap and turn it into a wax souvenir. It wasn't an execution. It was a manufacturing process. The French didn't just kill their royals. They processed them like livestock, ensuring that even in death, they belonged to the state. But sometimes, the disrespect isn't about industrial chemistry. It's about a wardrobe malfunction that shatters a legend. Look at Mary, Queen of Scots, in 1587. She was the great Catholic hope, a woman whose image was carefully curated as an ageless beauty. But at Fotheringay Castle, the executioner, Bull, was a nervous wreck. He lifted his axe and missed the neck, burying the heavy blade into the back of her head. She muttered, "Sweet Jesus." He struck again, severing the neck bone, but leaving a thick piece of gristle holding it on. He had to physically saw through it with the axe blade to finish the job. Then came the grand finale. Bull grabbed her famous auburn hair to display the trophy, shouting, "God save the Queen!" But he lifted his arm high, and the head stayed on the floor. He was left holding a red wig. Mary's real head rolled across the scaffold like a discarded ball, revealing short, grey hair. The illusion of the eternal queen vanished. Her head was eventually sewn back on, but she was left to rot in a lead coffin for months. Henry VIII's wives didn't even get the dignity of a lead coffin. When Catherine Howard faced the axe in 1542, the lack of respect was purely logistical. You'd think the King of England would order a proper burial for his wife. He didn't. After the axe fell on the teenage queen, the officials looked around and realized they had absolutely nowhere to put the body. They panicked and raided the tower's armory, dragging out an old, rough-hewn elm chest used to store arrows. They shoved the teenage queen's corpse into this munitions crate. And the head? They simply tucked it beside her body, wedged against her hip. It was the exact same fate her cousin, Anne Boleyn, suffered 6 years earlier. No state funeral, just a rushed burial in a recycled box, heads placed beside knees to save vertical space. They were treated like broken household objects, swept under the rug. Whether spiked on a tower, sewn on for a painting, or dissolved in quicklime, the reality is the same. The majesty you see in portraits resides entirely in the crown, not the biology. Once the gold is removed, the head is just meat. So, which fate was worse? Being a prop for a vanity portrait, or a trophy on a spike? Let me know in the comments below.